Hello. Good afternoon. Welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show and our daily look at all things World Cup 2026. I'm Chris Bell. Delighted to say I'm joined by Jay, Booker, and Lewis Sale. How are we both doing, gents? We well?
Not bad, mate. Not bad.
Hot. Are we just?
Hot.
I was about to say, are we coping in the heats?
No, not coping at all.
For those that might be watching from warmer climates or foreign fields, we are in the midst of a bit of a heat wave in England at the moment, and I can safely say as a bit of a fat lad, I'm not coping well with it.
Would you prefer always freezing or always like this?
Always freezing, because I can put layers on, I can layer up, I can get cozy. It's fine. There's only so much you can do without being arrested or. I'm just avoiding going out, which seems ridiculous as the weather's as nice as it is. But hey ho, it is what it is. Luckily, there's plenty of football on the telly to keep us occupied on these warm summer evenings. And we'll start by looking at last night's results. We'll start with the group that doesn't affect us as England fans, which is Group K. And we'll start, of course, with a certain Ronaldo and his Portugal side that.
Oh no! Oh no! For those of you watching, he's back. He's back.
I don't know how much of that you caught, Jay. I was just saying the Portugal cruised through their game last night against Uzbekistan.
Yeah, for me, it was probably the most one-sided game of the whole competition so far. And I know we've had Germany versus Curacao be the 7-1, but at least Curacao kind of laid a glove on Germany in the form of a goal and some attacks. Uzbekistan really didn't. I think Portugal kind of went through the motion second half. If they really stepped it on them, I think it could have been double. It could have been 10. And they missed a boatload of chances as well. I mean, if Ronaldo was 36 as opposed to 41. It's funny, they kept on mentioning his running stride, and I'm not really noticed. I don't know if you guys noticed that on the commentary, but his kind of like running pattern to then meeting the contact of the ball, and it is completely off in comparison to what it used to be. He could have had a hatful himself. So yeah, Portugal looked good, but they only looked as good as what they needed to beat a really poor Uzbekistan side, I think.
Yeah, Lou?
Yeah, agreed. It wasn't much of a contest. Portugal did exactly what probably people expected them to do. And listen, they've got a good squad with good players, so they're bound to beat better teams like Uzbekistan by that difference. And like Jayson, could have been a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's turn then to the second game in Group K. I'm guessing that there's still one or two technical glitches at my end from the way that you two are chuckling away to yourselves. But it was a second win in the group for Colombia. Hello.
Yeah, second win. By some people that there were potentially dark horses, whether they've seen them or not, but decided to put them as dark horses. It could work out the way that the tables are panning out. We might be playing Congo at some point, so we know of calibre of player that they've got in their squad. And again, it's one of those kind of just a game that goes through the motions. I'll be honest, I've seen highlights. I've not been able to see the whole game. That's probably the only game I've not seen in full yet. But yeah, I mean, listen, Colombia have done the job. Probably going to be one of the favourites to get out of that group as top. Job done, 1-0. It's all you can ask for. If only England did that, I'd have been happy.
Yeah, we said before the start of the tournament, to be fair, Jay, that Colombia obviously will be well acclimatised to the heat. Obviously, got a lot of players that play in South America and some, to be fair, that do play in the MLS and the like. They seem to have just taken to the tournament as we would have expected them to, really. Obviously, with that win in their first game against Uzbekistan, followed by this one against Congo.
Am I right in thinking that Ronaldo scored in both games?
Yes, I think he did get the. I think he got the first against Uzbekistan.
This is obviously a good result. Congo showed against Portugal that they were capable. You know, they weren't like the Uzbekistan of the group. Kind of fancied Congo to actually take something from Portugal in the opening game, and they did. I kind of fancied them to be as equally competitive in this. I haven't seen the game. My kind of routine is to always pick up the highlights as soon as I kind of sit down, but I haven't sat down yet. So this is the first time I've stopped. So I've not gone to the games yet. But yeah, I think Colombia will be a match and competitive for anybody that they face throughout the knockout stages. They've shown that in previous competitions as well. You know, we beat them on penalties, right? Last time.
In 20, was that 18?
I think Dyer scored the winning penalty, yeah.
Yeah. That was the first time we'd won a shootout.
That was the penalty shootout that kind of lifted all those years of heartbreak on penalties for England, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, they're capable out there. They have got some match winners. Yeah. Probably just a job done.
A quick word on, obviously, the final group game, which we'll see Colombia take on Portugal. That should be a really, really entertaining final game, Lou.
Should be a good one. I'd expect Portugal to win, just because, again, the calibre. Yeah, I do. I think that they're one that people have probably just started to pick up because I've actually looked at the squad a little bit more in depth. But I think Portugal and a team that could go a long way, depending on the road. But, you know, they could easily find themselves in the same region as us, where they're going to have to face a tricky running. Colombia are going to be very, very bouts, but I don't expect them to go deep into the tournament.
I personally think Portugal have got a real issue. You guys know that I lean on the side of Ronaldo over Messi in the Messi-Ronaldo debate. They're both unbelievable. You can have one or two. It doesn't matter. I think with R9, I think they're the greatest players that ever lived. That's just a given. But I think at this stage of Ronaldo's career, he's such a hindrance to this side. Messi is different. He drops deeper. He plays for the team, and he comes onto chances in a different way to Ronaldo. Ronaldo needs to be physically at his absolute pomp to make everything that he does great throughout his career work. And at 41, he's just not that. And Portugal are forcing the ball to him. You can just see it happening in everything that they do. And I just think it's a massive issue. Obviously, against Uzbekistan, it's not going to be. But when they start facing up against, you know, Argentina, even England, France, Spain, and some of the others, they're going to struggle. If they play the way that they're playing, even though they looked better against Uzbekistan, you can still see it, I think.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk out there about Ronaldo and his impact in particular on this Portugal side at this World Cup. Let's move on from Group K. Just before I do, just a quick hello to Jed, who's tuned in from an even warmer Bangkok. Always somewhere, that man. Thanks for joining us, Jed. Much appreciate your comment.
I want to get Jed on for a show.
We need to get his background, though, wherever he is the most exotic thing we've ever seen on the West Yorkshire Football Show in all the years we've done it, though. Just
absolutely.
Lou, you're muted. You're on mute, Lou. You've muted yourself.
But he's got aircon, though.
Yeah, I bet it's I've got cold can.
Cold can for Jay and a fan that's not really doing bugger all to my right, to be honest. Let's come to England's group. We'll start with the second game that was in the group. There was the midnight kickoff between Panama and Croatia. And kind of as we suspected, Jay, certainly you and I did at least, Panama put up again a bloody good fight against Croatia, made things difficult, but Croatia got the job done just.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I watched 70 minutes of the game. I went to bed, I don't know, whatever time that were, about 20 to 2. Panama could easily be sat on 6 points in this group. Really, really easily be sat on 6 points. They were the better team against Ghana, just very little cutting edge, no clinical edge to the team. But they've got some tidy, handy little players. They really work hard. They've got an aggressive press. They really take it to the opposition. Panama now don't have anything to play for, but I don't think it'll be an easy game against them on Saturday. I'm a bit disappointed. I'd like to have seen Panama get something from the game. But as I kind of said to you in the group last night, I think it shows a lot again about where this Croatia side is. I think this Croatia side's an absolute shadow of its former self in comparison to what we've seen. Yeah,
I think that final group game between Croatia and Ghana in particular has actually been quite an interesting one besides ours. Your take on it, Lou?
I think this is what I said right at the beginning of I think one of the first couple of shows that we did, Chris, and probably Jay backs this up with what I just said, that there's some teams who are capable, but they're really lacking a proper number 9, real cutting edge and a bit of ruthlessness. Ironically, talking about where we were albeit we have got a world-class striker. But, we've seen a fair few teams who have mixed it and been competitive. On occasions, not always been competitive, but majority have been. But if he had like a real good striker up top who was capable of putting the ball in the back of the net on a more regular basis, I think we could have seen a few more surprises. And Panama, for me, sit in that similar kind of group. I think we're stronger than what we felt when we faced them back in Russia. I think with a complete different outfit. But, we are talking a while ago. We're not talking a couple of years, but it's 8 years. So is it going to be a massive churn of players on that? Like Jay said, I agree. Croatia are a little bit of a different beast. So I've got a lot of quality, a lot of experience. But, I think probably the way they're trying to play doesn't really suit the quality, the type of players they've now got. And they haven't got the peak of Modric. We haven't got the old style Suka, Cerny, Prozneki. It's a different kind of player they've got now. But listen, again, got the job done 1-0, so that's probably all that really matters in these group stages.
They were playing Perisic up front last night. When you're just talking about the kind of standard number 9 issue that some of them are having, Croatia have got it as well. Obviously, Budimir came on. I think they made 2 changes at half time. They brought on Budimir and Kramajic, and it did change it a little bit, but yeah, they just
had a little bit more up front, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jed mentioned Modric just keeps keeping on, but at the same time, for me, this is the first time that he's looked past it. To be honest, he was obviously at fault for the penalty. He was caught out by Madueke for the penalty that England got last night. He was caught on the ball a lot in that first half, in particular. You have to say it's the first time for me that you've watched Modric in the last 2, 3, 4 years, and even though he's been in those mid-30s, he's still looked a Rolls-Royce player. This time around, don't know whether it's the heat, don't know whether it's the climate or what, but he just looks like he is past it now.
I thought exactly the same through both games. Constantly getting caught on the ball, constantly a yard behind where he would usually be. Got caught out for the penalty. I mean, he's 40-year-old playing in the centre of midfield. It's a different kettle of fish to the conversation with regards to Ronaldo, or if you want to have the conversation with a goalkeeper, I know there's a couple of 40-plus goalkeepers. It's a totally different kettle of fish. He's probably been allowed to get away with it a little bit in Serie A, just given the speed of the game and the time that he'll get on the ball in that area of the pitch. But yeah, I agree with you completely.
Let's move on then to what may take up slightly more time on the show today, and that, of course, is going to England's game last night up against Ghana. The goalless draw in the end. How do you approach this? Nicely. Let's start with Lou.
So we do have contrasting differences and opinions, which is fine because that's all healthy and that's absolutely fine.
Just to put it out there, I'm probably more with Lou than I am with Jay with this one, but carry on.
So for me, where I am with this is, were we good enough? No. Were we deserving to win that game? No. Couple of things that could be tweaked, could have been changed a bit earlier. And that's probably come to light because of what Tuchel did against Croatia, and it worked. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It felt to me a little bit like it was just chuck some attacking players on and see where we get, and hopefully something will work out. And it didn't. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. We weren't at it. We were half the yard off where we needed to be. We looked lackluster. Certain players, which we can mention in a bit, just weren't at the top of the game, and haven't necessarily been called out. There's people criticising others when actually I think others were probably just as bad, if not worse. But my caveat to this is that we didn't lose, and trying to be glass half full guy, which is not often for me as a grumpy old man, is that despite not playing well, we didn't lose. It would have, if we'd have won, people would have probably still been having a good old moan about it, but would have gone, we've won. Hence, like Croatia, what we've just said, and Colombia have done the job and got over the line, which is what we needed, and not needed, we should have done really with the quality of players that we've got. But we're likely to finish top of the group. We're likely to get out of it. Do we look like winners of the competition? No, but I've seen maybe Argentina look decent, and I still think it's early to call who's going to win it. We're going to need a little bit of luck to get through to a final anyway. Anyone who gets through to a final wins it has to have that little bit of luck. am I having a full breakdown, meltdown, and people going, "Oh, I've heard radio this morning. One of the worst performances I've ever seen from England. Get over yourself. It isn't that bad. It wasn't great, but it's not the worst. It's one of the worst I've seen in recent years, but it's not the worst. Doesn't pale into significance of, like the Hungary 4-0 defeat at Molineux and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's cracks there, which we knew about from the Croatian game. And hopefully my thing is, and I know we said it, and I said this, last night, is that an elite team has to have a reaction. And that's what we need to have. We need to have a reaction against Panama and the rest of these teams, because what we displayed last night wasn't good enough. And now what we need to do is actually realise that, maybe it wasn't as plain sailing, and maybe a little bit of complacency in there, thinking, we can just, pressure and be patient. And sometimes the patient didn't work, but we'll get the job done eventually.
Question on that: complacency from who? Management or players? Because from what I've seen of Thomas Tuchel, to be fair, he's been very much, and before the game was very much of this is going to be a difficult game. Like, they aren't going to let us have this easily. They are going to sit in. So I'm assuming you're more thinking from the players' perspective than the coaching staff. Potentially.
I mean, it's hard to say, because not one of them's going to go out there thinking we're just going to turn up and win necessarily. But I think there was players who I think are better than what they're shown last night, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it was almost an element of, we'll be patient and it will come. And listen, I was one of them that said it, hands up completely. And it didn't. We didn't do enough to trouble Ghana. They sat in, did the job, and to be fair, we're probably actually unlucky not to get a penalty and maybe gone and win the game. But I think there was an element of some of the stuff that I'm guessing have probably worked on from what we've seen, what Tuchel's reaction on the touchline is not what was worked on. And that will give food for thought for Tuchel. Listen, he got given a job to win this tournament at the end of the day, and I said this morning to us chaps, didn't we? And he's not given a pass, but obviously that extension through to the Euros makes it slightly a little bit less intense. But at the end of the day, he got given a contract to win this tournament. It's a failure when you don't win a game. It'll be a failure when we don't win it, because you've not ultimately done what you've wanted to do. But I'm not having a major reaction about it. I think it's one of those that will definitely need to be learned on, definitely need to be looked at and analysed. I don't think it's one that can just go, we'll skip over that and think we're better than that, because they need to do a lot of work to improve and go far in this tournament. Because if not, then we could potentially be aiming for an early exit, because we've put, 45 minutes together in, 180 minutes, which, isn't great at the moment.
I mean, I think you're right. I think there's certainly been a lot worse performances over the years. Christ. Iceland 2016, the Germany game in 2010, the Algeria 0-0 in the group stage in 2010. Interestingly as well, that was our fourth consecutive tournament where we draw the second group game after Scotland, a 0-0 draw in Euro 2020, of course, in 2021 because of COVID, a goalless draw against the USA in Qatar at the World Cup in 2022, and a 1-1 draw against Denmark in the second group game in Euro 2024. It's a strange habit to have all of a sudden in these tournament situations. I said with you that I didn't think there's no need for an overreaction. We dominated the play. We dominated the ball. I don't think people are necessarily giving Ghana quite enough credit on the defensive work they did, because they were so deep. And Anthony Barry said at half-time they were 10, 12 metres further back and deeper than they kind of had anticipated them being. Jay, I know you thought it was not good, to put it politely. Any softening up on overnight to where it is and just taking it as it is? And look, I made the point in the group chat last night that, look, I've seen us play a hell of a lot worse over the years. I know you were like, well, what does that matter? But ultimately, it's an indicator of this won't go down as one of the worst England performances that we're going to see at the end of the day.
And it ain't going to make or break the competition, but I more worry as a collective of what we've seen over the two games with what it means to our chances of winning the World Cup. Now, if we're talking from a perspective of we don't think we're going to win the World Cup, we're not really in the top, let's just say, 6 nations of of opportunity and chance to win the World Cup, then fine. Like, it's not that bad of a performance. But if I saw France have that performance, if I saw Argentina have that performance, if I saw Germany have that performance, and, you know, outside of probably France, you'd say that we were in that pool of teams with all of the others, I'd be saying that were a really concerning performance. They weren't very good. So it doesn't change it just because we've got the emotional connection to it of England. I also think it papers over the cracks when we just say, well, we dominated the play. We were allowed to dominate the play. Ghana chose for that to be their game plan. Now, I know that it's difficult to break down a low block. I've seen teams do it against Leeds for the last 3 years. You know, the game that kind of sprung to my mind when I was watching the game yesterday with this home result against Sunderland. Sunderland had 2 shots on goal, 1 on target. That was a penalty. And it was exactly the same if you have a look at the stats. It was basically a carbon copy of the stats with the Ghana stats last night. And Ghana could have nicked that game. Now, the difference is that Leeds United were expected to finish bottom 5 of the Premier League. England are basically the Man City of the Premier League table. They're expected to be able to create more chances. We had 3 shots on target, Chris. You know, we didn't create enough. We made the keeper make 1 decent save, a saving which he'd expected to make from Saka after about 85 minutes. So I'm not having a meltdown about it, but it depends on what you're expecting somebody a team that potentially can win the title to be showing in terms of performances. And for me, I just think we look miles off it. That's just my thing.
Quickly bringing Jez Cook says, bloody hell, boys, keep an ounce of positivity. Remember, this is a whole new format. Ultimately, I mean, look, I will try and bring some positivity to that. Look, this isn't just us. And I think the gap between ourselves and Ghana, for example, is a much smaller gap than we saw between Spain and Cape Verde in the first round of the group. And the Spaniards weren't losing their heads over drawing 0-0. And let's be fair, like, they didn't defend half as well as Ghana did last night, actually, because the goalkeeper had to do so much more work.
Yeah, but also Spain created way more chances. So, all right, Cape Verde didn't defend as well.
But ultimately, when it comes to a 0-0 draw, it's fucking irrelevant. Like, it's still just...
well, it's irrelevant if you don't want to apply any context to the performance. I choose to put context to the performance. If we'd have been troubling the goalkeeper and playing some nice, fast, intricate football, but not scoring, we were putting the chances wide, or the keeper had a blinder, I'd be sitting here saying completely, it's one of them games. Keepers had a belter of a game. We move on, but we didn't. It were very slow, very side to side. We didn't do anything different to try and change the flow. The change that he made with O'Reilly and Madueke, whoever had come over to that left hand side, that should have been done at half time. 100% that should have been done at half time. We were dealing with this problem of a narrow, low block, and we then got all of the width coming inside. So you were just creating even more of a problem. So there's just issues. Like I said, there's no point us looking at this kind of game and not analysing it for what it is, because it is what it is.
Hello,
it is. It is what it is.
It is. No,
that's why I'm looking at it more positively, I think.
No, it is, and I do agree a lot with what Jay says. And to be fair, I know me and Jay have similar opinions on a lot of things, which is fine. And I think I agree about the creating chances is a concern. I'll call it out. I think Harry Kane could have done a lot more. I thought he was isolated up there. He's not been called out. And I don't mind that because, sometimes we can get a little bit OTT with reaction from what I've seen sometimes this morning. But, we can't say about Anthony Gordon having a good game when Harry Kane didn't do much either. You can't just scapegoat certain players without others. For me, it wouldn't have... I mean, he's not gonna, but why wouldn't Ollie Watkins come on instead of Harry Kane? Because Harry Kane was offering us nothing. He offered us nothing. Crosses are coming in with Harry Kane marked by 2 or 3 centre-backs. The one time Gordon got round the outside, he got a free kick. He did that once. Madueke, decision-making is poor. But then again, how many times, and I watched it again a little bit this morning on the highlights just to try and get another feel for it when you have a bit of a fresh pair of eyes. Madueke is charging forward. He's got no support, and his decision-making is not great anyway. But Reece James is a good 20 yards behind him, and when he did get the ball in, the deliveries were poor. That was one thing that, again, did some performance for me. I thought the deliveries from both wings and set pieces was appalling. and I'm not going to mince my words on that. It was poor. You know, Declan Rice, who's arguably been the best set piece taker all season, couldn't really beat the first man on a good 3 times. Reece James was hitting crosses in that weren't going far. I think the only one really, well, there were 2 that went in. I think Gordon hit one in the first half, and the other one went in towards O'Reilly when he hit the bar. That was it. And so when we're trying to stretch a game out wide, one, Jay's right, we need to be quicker, we need to have that width. But actually, the crosses that have got to come in have got to be a whole lot better. And actually, rightly or wrongly, I don't think he deserved man of the match, far from it, but I thought Bellingham was a bit of a highlight. I thought he tried to run beyond his man. I thought the lack of movement in the final third was almost static apart from Bellingham. But then you bring your wide men to different situations and different sides, and you bring Saka on and you put Madueke to the left. Bellingham, who's a threat in the air, gets brought off. Strange. I didn't get that either. So, and this is where I think there was just a little bit of not a panic, but a little bit of we're just going to chuck it and see what happens. I thought there was a little bit of not having much of a plan, which is a little bit concerning for me because we're going to come up against a couple of teams maybe that are going to do the same, and we need to make sure that we have an absolute plan so that, you know, it's all right, Anthony Barry coming at half-time saying, oh, we weren't expecting Ghana to do this. That's fine. You might not be expecting it, but you've got to come up with something to break it down. If you're an elite team that's going to win the competition, and this is where I do agree with you, you've got to find something to make it work. Now, I'm not talking about putting Dan Burn up front because I'm not a fan of putting defenders up front, as Chris well knows about that. But what I do think is I think we have a better calibre of player within this squad that can break down teams. Forget it. We were talking about this, weren't we? Hypothetically, would you have taken this person? Would you have taken that person? That doesn't matter because we're not here. But still, with this quality of players that are in that team, we should have had enough to break down Ghana. But, like I say, what I do say is it's not a disaster. I don't think it defines what we're going to do in the competition, but it might have an impact in how we play against other teams.
I was surprised not to see Tony or Watkins come on, to be fair, because get themselves about in the box because their movement is quicker and at this stage of Kane's career, probably better than Kane's in those kind of 6, 18, 12-yard sort of areas.
I just say as well on the back of what Lou's just said there, Chris, I think he's so right. I think there were a little bit of panic almost. They were like a kind of trying to figure out the solution a little bit, but it was erratic. Like the gaps between, the gaps between the changes didn't make sense to me. He brings Madueke over to the left with O'Reilly to bring 2 left footers over there, and then about 5 minutes later he brings Rashford on. Yeah. So we're then going back to cutting inside again. Then you're right, we're going a little bit more direct. We're whipping balls into the box, and Bellingham's come off, and we've got Morgan Rogers on the pitch. It's like so it didn't make sense. When I'm kind of analysing the whole thing, that is part of my concern. Tuchel's part of it as well, and I quite like it. But you know, based on what we see yesterday, there were some big errors from performances from players and from manager.
Let's look at McComb moving on, just because again I'm conscious of time. That's the group as it stands. England obviously top of the group, 11 points with Ghana. Croatia sitting on 3 points. Panama are heading home by all accounts with 0 points so far. The third place table, interestingly, looks like this. And as it stands, and obviously it keeps changing, but we've gone from the England as it stands, we would play Portugal, to now, as it stands, we would play Cape Verde. That's going to ever change, you expect, over the coming days. But that third place table is looking interesting. Like those sides at the bottom, the sides in particular, Senegal and Congo, that we've kind of fancied to do well, have got a lot to do in their final group games to get themselves above that white line.
There's so much to happen in there. I mean, Cape Verde, as an example, they play Saudi Arabia. You expect them to win that game. They could end up winning the group.
Yeah.
And Spain have got Uruguay, and Uruguay are desperate. Now, you know, is it unfathomable to think that Uruguay might take a point out of that game? I don't think so, which then the Spain finish on 5 as well. Now, obviously, Spain have got decent goal difference for what they did in their other game.
Against Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, that's it, of course. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens.
Interesting for you, Jay. As it stands, Uruguay would be sent to play Argentina. And that would be a hell of a game. Lou, what's your kind of take on this third place rankings at the moment? Like, I think it's fascinating. I know that we've talked about the inclusion of some third place teams possibly watering down the competition, but actually on this third group stage game, when you see a table like that, I think it's been really interesting because you've also got to factor in that by the time you get round to the latter groups, they're going to know exactly what they need to do because obviously groups like A to E, etc., will have already been played. Those sides will have secured that will have, their fate won't be in their hands anymore.
Do you want my honest opinion? I hate it. I do. I just think
I really quite like this.
I just think it dilutes the eliteness of the competition. We're looking at potentially we talk about, don't we, in domestic going, well, it could be fifth and sixth could get into Europe, and that feels diluted. Well, this is the same in the World Cup, and I just don't like it. I think the top two should go through, and that's that. And then it goes to the knockouts. It's a talking point, but I mean, really, are we're actually talking about potentially third place getting in and a league table for third place? It's gone mad. I just don't get it.
I think to make up the numbers, though, to have the right set of numbers with top twos going through, the only way it would work is you would need to expand the tournament with another 4 groups to put another 8 sides going through in top 2 positions.
I mean, this is why I'm not a fan of it.
What Louis is saying there is Louis is advocating for a further expansion of the World Cup in future years. That's what I'm taking.
Nowhere near. Actually, in fairness, completely opposite. Maybe stick with what was working before.
We'll have Gibraltar at the World Cup before too long.
Because that's going to happen, Lou. Of course they're going. We're not going backwards, mate.
Not now it's happened. It's not now it's happened, but I mean, we're now looking. We're now talking about who can finish highest in the third place ranking. I mean, seriously, is this what we're talking about?
Opening game of the next World Cup, Lou, is going to be Gibraltar versus American Samoa.
Mate, I'm gonna lose my mind.
I will be right there for it.
No,
Absolutely.
I'm not having it. Listen, it creates a bit of tension. Like I said, it's a talking point. Keeps people a bit interested, but I'm just not here for it. You know what? Fair play to whoever goes through. They can do what they want, but let's see if actually some of them get through to that quarters and semi-finals, because I'd be surprised if some of them do. I'm looking at that, right? And yes, we got through the Nations League. Sweden didn't win a game in the qualifiers. Scotland are Scotland. Croatia apparently are not what they used to be. I'm really struggling to see a team that can go far in that third place ranking. I mean, the only thing that I say I'll be doing is cheering on Brazil because it might knock Scotland down the table. But I'm really CBA. You know what I mean? Just not having it.
Wow, there we go.
You asked a question. You've got an answer.
I did, and as I say, like the only solution that there's going to be to this is just an expansion of the tournament in future years, because there's not a cat in hell's chance they're going to reduce the numbers, mate. We all know
Not
this.
now.
Let's look ahead to tonight's fixtures, and with us starting in the final round of groups games. We've got 3 groups settled tonight. If I can find the right order in time wise, there we go. So we start weirdly, and this is just my head in, but we start with Group B in terms of the earliest kickoffs for us tonight. Bosnia versus Qatar and Switzerland versus Canada. Jay.
Yeah, it's. I've been quite impressed with Canada, if I'm honest.
Yeah, they've been fun to watch.
Yeah, they have. Obviously they've got home advantage, but they have actually got some quality in there as well, and they look like they're going around about it in the right way. Obviously, Jesse Marsh close to home, all that, but the style of football's been quite all right. I've quite enjoyed watching them. Good on them. I think there'll be a battle for Switzerland to take anything out of that. Given everything that I've just said, and I think Switzerland got a win and a draw, right? They drew with Qatar, so they're already probably through. But that'll be the battle of the top two. Canada drew with Bosnia, didn't they, in the opening game? Just trying to remember.
They did, yeah. So as it is, both Canada and Switzerland sit on 4 points. Bosnia and Qatar both sit on 1 point. So again, there's something to play for in both games, because obviously Bosnia currently sit third, but a win for Qatar will put them most likely into that third place table.
Well, Bosnia and Qatar both need to win, don't they?
Yeah.
That is an absolute both need to win kind of situation. So that'll be a really entertaining game to watch. Probably lean towards watching that just because of the dynamic rather than the other one. And for Switzerland, Canada, obviously it'll make a difference in terms of who they then play. Because if Canada win the group and they play whoever in third place, I don't know how it works. I've not really looked at that, but it'll give them probably a route through to the round of 16, won't it? So.
Yeah, more than likely. Lou, quick word on Group B.
Yeah, listen, I think the top game is obviously where they both need to win. I think the 6-goal swing difference between Bosnia and Switzerland is going to be a difficult one to get between second and third. But yeah, I mean, Canada have done well, haven't they? Host nation. Everybody wants host nation to do well. It's probably the better game on paper, but the Bosnia and Qatar one, like I say, it's both teams can't afford to lose. So I think from a neutral, entertaining perspective, that might be an interesting one to watch.
Qatar absolutely lost the plot, didn't they? Against Canada. They absolutely lost the plot, didn't they?
Especially after getting a point unexpectedly as well in the first game. Gives them something to build on, and then, yeah.
They did so well. I mean, that was one of those games actually that I forgot to mention earlier. Like when Qatar, to be fair, pulled a point out of Switzerland in a game that they absolutely didn't deserve to do so, and then, as you say, completely lost it against Canada. They will be missing a couple of players tonight off the back of that as well, so that might have an impact. We will see. Let me just try and get this throw in. There we go. Into Group C, which for us in the UK are the 11 o'clock kickoffs: Morocco versus Haiti and Scotland versus Brazil. Lou, start with you on this one on Group C.
Come on, Brazil.
Okay, and a word on Morocco versus Haiti.
Morocco will win.
Come on, your dark horses.
I don't see any more to it really. I mean, listen, Scotland, it's arguably their biggest game in their recent history internationally, no doubt about it. I think they'll be disappointed to only score one against Haiti in that first game because it's not much of a cushion to go into against Brazil. Brazil haven't been sensational either, but I think this is again going to be a real tactical one for Steve Clarke because he does tend to go slightly defensive. He's got to play it really carefully because they can't get thumped because they could potentially go further down that wonderful third place table and maybe get knocked out. Or do they go for it and really take it to Brazil and qualify in style? It's going to be a real tricky one, but I think Brazil have just got enough.
Yeah, Ancelotti's referred to Scotland as Steve Clarke's very organised Scotland side. And it is one where actually, if they could put in a defensive performance, Jay, that a point would put them in good stead to get through to the next stage, actually. Although, obviously, we know how big a ass that is to try and keep out the likes of Brazil, even if it isn't the side that Brazil have had in past years.
They make the most of what they've got, don't they, Scotland?
Yeah.
Like, when this group was announced, I think it's probably a great group for Scotland to enjoy their experience with. They get to play Brazil in the group, before going out to whoever, Algeria or something like that. Like, because at some point, Scotland's quality difference is going to matter. It mattered against Morocco. Yeah, there weren't much in it, but they still deserve to lose a game. They had to win the game against Haiti, and they did. They got it over the line, even though I thought they were fortunate. I didn't think they were very good. You look through that team and really you take out McTominay and McGinn. It's a low-end championship team. Would that be fair? Angus, Grant Hanley.
You've got Robertson and Tierney as well, to be fair.
Yeah, they've got a bit here or there, but when you look at Lyndon Dykes, Shankland, they're just average. They're just an average side, but they are workmanlike. They do put it together quite well. I think Steve Clarke's a really good manager. I think he's effective. And they could spoil their way towards something in this game. It's unlikely. I still think Brazil are better than some people are giving them credit for, even though they're not the same as they were once was. And they have lost Rafinha for tonight as well, which is going to be, big.
Yeah.
By the sounds of it, they're going to try and shoehorn Neymar into the team, and that might cause a problem. It will be interesting. Look, I mean, I'm not like Lou in that I hate Scotland. I'm a bit impartial when it comes saying that as it is, Lou. Sorry, I'm a bit impartial when it comes to the home nations. I actually always quite hope that they do well, even though they all hate us. So especially Wales and Scotland, because Leeds have a lot of connections with them over the years and stuff. So it'd be a massive achievement to get out of this group. And the truth is, a point will do it. I don't think 3 will, but I think 4 will. Well, 4 almost certainly will. So, it'd be interesting. I'll be watching.
Yeah, it will. A quick word as well, Jay, on Morocco, Haiti. I mean, Jed, he says for him, Morocco have been the best of the African nations so far.
I quite liked Ivory Coast, if I'm honest. I thought they were good. But Morocco have looked good in patches, and then also looked really average in patches, because I thought in the second half against Scotland, I thought they were a bit meh. So they're still going to cause problems for teams. I think Haiti are a bit like Panama, have really shown themselves to be credible. I know they got, Brazil took them apart eventually, but they were still competitive against Scotland. I thought they were really good value for a point against Scotland. So they've not, disgraced themselves. I think the same will probably go through this Morocco win comfortably, 2-0, but I'll put on a performance I can be proud of.
Yeah, so let's turn then to the final group that takes place tonight, which is Group A, which is a 2:00 games. That gives us Czech Republic versus Mexico, South Africa versus South Korea. The group, as it stands, Mexico currently top the group on 6 points, South Korea second on 3 points, and then the Czech Republic ahead of South Africa, both on a point. And Czech Republic have a goal difference that is one better than South Africa's. So, again, still quite a bit to play for here. Mexico will want to end the group with 3 wins from 3, no doubt. The Czech Republic, however, of course, need to get something to guarantee a route through to hopefully for them, a win will guarantee their place in the third place playoffs. Equally for South Africa, also need a win to try and get through through into the third place teams, but that would put South Korea in trouble.
South Africa on 0.
South Africa on 1.
1. They take a point off Czech Republic.
They got a draw out of the Czech Republic. Yes.
Yeah. So many games you sometimes forget. I mean, I think South Africa have been so disappointed, and I know they're not
been so disorganised, haven't they?
Yeah.
They've just been. They're probably the worst of the African sides, if I'm honest.
Yeah, they are. I think they're the worst of the sides that you'd expect to be okay.
Yeah,
there's this category after that with Qatar and a couple of the, Cape Verde, where you wouldn't expect them to do anything. Maybe not Cape Verde, but you know what I'm trying to say. I just imagine a South Korea and a Mexico win in this, if I'm honest. And I think I have a feeling Czech Republic will miss out on the third place.
Jed sums it up pretty nicely there. I think an absolute rabble. Lou, what do you think of the rabble?
Yeah, I mean, South Korea probably the better, more technical team. They do look more organised, look a bit more threatening in attack. You probably expect them, but listen, this could potentially throw up a couple of surprises. But Mexico might potentially rotate a couple. That might give Czechia a little bit of a half a step into something, that they can get something out of that game. But I mean, looking on the outside in and from the games we've seen so far in the group, I think Mexico and South Korea have probably been the two best teams. Czechia might kind of be very direct in their set piece and approach with long throws, free kicks, all that kind of stuff against Mexico. And Mexico, despite winning the 2 games, haven't been, oh my word, wow, they've been the best team. They've done well in the conditions that they're suited to, but they haven't really walked away. And it's been, if I'm being honest, pretty poor group. But I'd expect, depending on how Mexico are set up in the team, I'd expect the top, Mexico and South Korea to go through.
Well, we will see how they all get on. Jay, I think it's you and me that are going to be on tomorrow. So we'll look back at the final group games across groups A, B, and C, see how they get on and dissect those, and then look ahead to tomorrow night's games as well. Any other business before we wrap up? Or Jay's desperately got to go, I'm guessing. So I guess there'll be nothing here. But any other business for you, Lou? Jay, anything?
Harry Wilson, here we go.
Yeah, I keep seeing that there's a medical due to happen. If he fails that now, though, after everything,
it'd be embarrassing, wouldn't it? Yeah, we'll be doing a video on Harry Wilson later on this evening, probably at the start of the World Cup games. So any Leeds fans wanting to see that, and we'll be dropping that later. But yeah, no, I'm still really enjoying the World Cup in its whole, to be honest.
Are you waiting for Harry Wilson to be actually confirmed before doing the video, or actually signed on the dotted line? Or are you just going to go and do the video only for it to fall through in 2 days' time?
David Ornstein's confirmed it. We're is agreed deal. Agreed the deal. We're getting hot off the press. We're just going to go with
it. Excellent. Let's hope that he just passed that bloody medical. Excellent. Cheers, Jay. Thank you, Lou. Lou, I think you're back with me on Friday.
Looks like it.
Look forward to that. He says delightfully.
You just put me in.
There, mate. Cheers for joining us today, Jay and Lou. Big thank you to everyone that's got the comments on as well. Don't forget, if you've caught this midway through, you can catch up from the start on the YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to the West Yorkshire Football Show, do so as well. Like and subscribe to the channel and give us a follow on Facebook and on X. Okay, from myself then and from the lads, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, whatever you get up to, and we'll see you soon here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. Take care.